This is one of the most famous and mysterious places on the planet. Its existence is known to millions, but only a few understand its true purpose. Rumors of strange phenomena, unusual lights illuminating the night sky, frightening sounds, and even extraterrestrial forms of life do not cease. Despite this, the government denies the existence of Area 51. However, a team of independent experts and investigators decides to dig for the truth. What are the authorities hiding? Who are they protecting? How far are they willing to go to conceal the secrets of this enigmatic site? Area 51, located in the Nevada desert, is different from other military bases in the United States. This highly classified facility is surrounded by rocky mountains and protected by an impenetrable ring of security that prevents unwanted guests. Reports on aviation development suggest that anti-gravity technology and revolutionary aviation systems, which resemble science fiction more than reality, may be tested here. Chuck Clark, a professional astronomer and amateur aviator, is one of the leading specialists on Area 51. His interest in this base has always been high, despite the United States' claims that it is merely a testing site for aircraft. The nearest town to Area 51 is Rachel, known for its claims of UFO sightings. Many believe that the government encourages these rumors to distract attention from real events. Chuck has built a home base for constant monitoring of activities at the zone. Today, he meets with a team of specialists to conduct field research on this legendary base. Their task is to conduct a detailed investigation of Area 51 within 24 hours and uncover what the government has hidden behind its walls. Chuck shows the team a photograph of the base taken from a satellite, which provides a general idea of its location. Each participant brings a unique set of knowledge and skills. Guy Norris, a recognized aviation correspondent, notes that there are no indications of runways on the map, even though they actually exist there. Military communications specialist Bob Groff studies the base's radio system where hundreds of frequencies operate. He brings scanners to check how cautious the guards are. Mike Johnson, a private detective, has already had experience working with military bases and knows that security at such sites is well armed and ready to use force if anyone tries to enter their territory. The team splits into two groups for observation. The first group, consisting of Mike and Bob, will circle the base along the perimeter to determine the location of the nearest security system and monitor the people at the base using a radio scanner. To do this, they will have to overcome barbed wire and pass by a guard post. The second group, led by Chuck, is heading to the top of Mount Tikaboo from where there is a good view of the base. This time, his telescope will be aimed not at the stars but at Area 51. This is very important for Chuck, who has photographed this mysterious area more than once. He moved to Rachel 10 years ago and has since been tracking military aircraft, coming to the conclusion that Area 51 lives by its own rules, far removed from commonly accepted norms. Recently, Chuck discovered how the security systems of the base operate. One day, while walking in the desert, he stumbled upon debris resembling a crashed airplane. He bent down, pulled it out of the sand, and saw an antenna inserted into the ground. Chuck Clark, a professional astronomer and amateur aviator, discovered a motion detector not on the territory of Area 51, but several kilometers from the perimeter of the secret base. He assumed that hidden surveillance sensors were installed everywhere to monitor the lives of ordinary people. The 40-kilometer buffer zone complicated access to the base, and Chuck did not understand why sensors were installed so far away. He found them in the neighboring valley and even 13 kilometers from the zone, 1 kilometer from the highway. Determined, Chuck collaborated with George Knapp, a journalist gathering information about Area 51. They spent half an hour searching for the first sensor and then found the second. "This is your transmitter, a delayed action mechanism," Chuck noted, realizing the importance of his findings for national security. As a result, they discovered more than a dozen sensors installed to transmit information to Area 51. Chuck, a retired astronomer and veteran of the 7th Armored Division, continued to observe the secret base. While George's story amazed the world, Chuck's work was progressing. He devised a way to create a loophole in the barbed wire and slip onto the zone's territory without being caught. To do this, he needed to cover 800 kilometers to Denver in Colorado. In one inconspicuous building was the same technology that was originally created by the owners of Area 51. Now Chuck could switch roles with them and finally take a look at what was happening inside. Space Imaging, the company that owns the first commercial high-resolution satellite in the world, Iconis, orbited the Earth every 98 minutes, providing images so precise that even the capital of Area 51 could be seen on them. "Chuck, why are you interested in Area 51?" one of his colleagues asked him. "I moved here a long time ago, and whenever I took my eyes off the stars and the sky, I immediately pointed my lens at the base," Chuck replied, realizing that his observations could pique the interest of the authorities. "Are you sure they were happy about that?" his interlocutor continued. "Of course they were happy," Chuck remarked with irony. With the help of photographs from space, the team could assemble an accurate three-dimensional model of Area 51. Although the U.S. government might not have liked it, they could not stop the imaging from space, the only opportunity for Chuck to access the base's territory. "Oh my God, do you recognize this image?" he asked, pointing at the picture. "The place looks familiar, but from a different angle." "This is Area 51, they replied to him. "Now we can even fly in right here. Fantastic." Chuck continued to analyze the photographs, noticing details that might escape others. "Look, Sand, but I can't determine when a plane landed here, long ago or maybe yesterday. It could just be a decoy. Those bastards at the base might have thought of that too," he pondered. "Are the security measures really that strict?" his colleague asked him. "Perhaps even stricter. Sensors set up many kilometers from the area itself monitor long before you get close to it," Chuck replied, aware of the risks of his investigation. "I hope I don't go missing after this broadcast." "I hope not," his interlocutor supported him. Chuck did everything he could in Denver and immediately set off to share his findings with the others. However, while he was studying Area 51 from the inside, the federal government struck back. "My friend from the FBI called me and asked what the hell I was doing poking around Area 51 and warned me that they were about to show up," George reported, understanding that Chuck would be in trouble. Soon Chuck encountered police officers who had FBI badges. They came face to face with the personnel of Area 51. In the desolate Nevada desert lies Area 51, a military testing site shielded from prying eyes by a 40-kilometer buffer zone, mountains, and an unfriendly terrain. Two groups of researchers were observing, recording everything they saw and heard. If everything goes according to plan and the security agencies do not intervene, in 24 hours they will conduct reconnaissance. The team leader Chuck Clark and aviation expert Guy Norris set up camp at the summit, armed with a telescope and a camera, preparing for an important phase of their research. It felt as if they had landed in the middle of nowhere, being 35 kilometers deep in the wilderness. They had 2 hours of climbing up sheer cliffs to reach an altitude of about 2,500 meters. At that moment, they were at an altitude of 2,100 meters, and there was no one around. Chuck Clark, a professional astronomer and amateur aviator, understood that this could become a problem. Ever since journalist George Knapp reported that Chuck had found sensors outside the territory of Area 51, the men in black decided to teach him a lesson. While Chuck was studying the model of Area 51, FBI agents came to visit him. They confirmed that last night a search had been conducted at the home of a military observer in the town of Rachel. They had an exclusive report. The search was initiated by the Joint Counterterrorism Forces. However, the FBI did not disclose what exactly was seized from Chuck's home. Bill Whiffen, who lived across the road, noticed that Chuck was not in town. At first, he thought it was thieves, so he grabbed his camera and started filming. The men and women he captured were members of the Joint Counterterrorism Forces. There were many cars and more than 10 people, mostly men, but there were women as well. Bill recognized them by their FBI badges and photographed them as they collected boxes. These were FBI agents and Air Force special units. When Chuck returned home, he did not immediately understand what had happened. On the kitchen table lay a warrant and a list of seized items. He saw that the search was conducted by Robert Hunt from the Joint Counterterrorism Forces. The house had been thoroughly searched. They took detectors, radio equipment, diskettes and discs, a notebook, photo albums, letters, and an Olympus camera. Chuck did not understand why they needed a monitor and what information could possibly be in it. Rumors spread quickly, and friends and neighbors began to call. Chuck responded, "Yes, I understand that someone from the FBI visited me. No, I am not missing yet." He knew that what he was doing was not to their liking, but there was nothing illegal about it. "I think they didn't like that we talked about the sensors outside the zone. They were kind of trying to tell me, leave it alone. I know what I can afford and what I cannot. I come up to the line, but I never cross it. This has infuriated them, but I am not afraid." Knowing that the government had tightly engaged with Chuck, the teams of security measures specialist Mike Johnson and audio expert Bob Grove set to work on their part of the mission. They were located 6 kilometers from the entrance on the backside of Area 51, confident that the security forces could see them. "I think they are listening to us right now, and they are surely watching us," Mike suggested. They decided to walk along the fence, keeping an eye on the guard post. "Let's see what's over there," Bob proposed. It appeared that a sensor was installed right on the fence, a white box. "Look," he said. The authorities were well aware of their arrival. "That's more than enough for me," Mike added. They checked the other side of the road, but there was nothing there. For the first time in hundreds of kilometers, they saw the security forces of Area 51, often referred to as the Camo Dudes due to their uniforms. Bob and Mike wanted to take a closer look, but one wrong step could jeopardize the entire mission. "Now is not the time to take risks. I don't want to end up in prison," Mike said, and they quickly retreated. Meanwhile, Area 51 was coming to life. "Incredible," Bob exclaimed as they entered the territory with Mr. X. "Absolute power corrupts absolutely." The 2 teams of nonconformist researchers were enduring the hardships of the desert, staying awake 24 hours to lift the veil of mystery over a place whose existence is still denied by the government. "We should have trained," one of them remarked. Chuck and Guy were climbing the treacherous path to the summit of Tikaboo Peak. On this cold night, they would need a telescope and warm clothing. The first 800 meters to the ridge were a real challenge, where it was easy to stumble, and the higher they climbed, the steeper the path became. Their goal was the only place from which there was a view of Area 51. Finally, they reached the summit. Chuck, gazing in awe at the surroundings, exclaimed, "Oh my God, it takes your breath away." He shared his feelings. "It's hard to describe what I feel. Even though we are here on planet Earth, it feels like we are on the edge of another world. From the desert, another world peeks out, one that the government hides from curious eyes." With excitement, he noted, "I see some buildings shining in the sun, and there's the runway. I can't believe I'm seeing this. Incredible. We've waited so long for this." "Fantastic." Chuck and Guy hurried to set up camp at the top of the mountain, unaware that since they could see the base, they could also be seen. Being 45 kilometers from the observation object, they hope that Chuck's telescope and telephoto lens will allow them to capture the activities of Area 51. "We need 50 times magnification," says Chuck, realizing that this area exists for testing secret technology, almost from the realm of science fiction. Among the many rumors about what might be happening in the zone, Chuck shares his observations. "I myself, when I was in America, saw some things, for example, objects that slowly rise and hover motionless in the air for a few minutes, or while rising suddenly stop or sharply turn. Incredible. You can never predict what you will see." Meanwhile, dressed like tourists, Bob and Mike settle in to monitor the activities of Area 51. Although they cannot see the base itself, Bob will be able to track any movements. If there are any phenomena occurring, they can be noted physically, explains Bob, mentioning the multitude of equipment capable of capturing infrared drops. At the summit of Tikaboo Peak, Chuck and Guy prepare the telescope for action. "If anything happens, we will have mere seconds to react," says Guy, looking at the moonless night. "Are the chances better to see something?" he asks. "Potentially yes," replies Chuck, adding that they do not need any extra silhouettes against the moon, so the less light, the greater the chance of seeing the tests. It is now almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Bob and Mike are positioned right at the border of the base, using high-tech radio equipment to mark any activity on the ground or in the air. "We are very interested in signals in the bouncing frequency range, as this is the range of the federal government," says Bob, tuning the frequency. "Is that security? Looks like they know about us?" asks Mike. "Possibly," replies Bob, suspecting that the security of the zone is filming them. The night passes in anticipation, and soon Chuck and Guy notice a fire appearing. "Looks like work starts at 3 o'clock in the morning," says Chuck. In almost 10 years spent here, he notices that everything has greatly expanded. "Tonight there was a strange silence at the top of the mountain," he adds, as the atmospheric interference ceases. Bob tries to catch the frequency. "There are military planes here. The frequency in the air has increased." "This indicates that something is happening there," he reports. "Something is moving at an enormous speed, a speed right towards Gray and Chuck." Suddenly, they see a bright light in the sky that seems incredible. "It's still here. It seems to be moving north," says Chuck, full of excitement. "Interesting. I saw something. I saw it. So bright, right?" Everything indicates that it is an aircraft illuminated by a directed light. Guy hopes that Chuck will manage to capture everything on camera, but the sky over Area 51 darkens, and the runway plunges into darkness. The next morning, flights will continue. Chuck, with excitement in his voice, exclaims, "God, that's a MiG-19 awesome!" Mr. X showcases his base, noting that these are unusual military air forces that are at a higher level of secrecy. Mike Johnson, a private detective, is getting closer to the truth, and from his reaction it becomes clear that he is working at the base. 5:30 in the morning. As dawn breaks, Chuck and Guy take a telescope to take one last look at the base before everything is shrouded in fog. To the left over the hill, they notice a control dispatch point, and only about 5 meters can be seen from above. "It looks like the planes are now to the left of that runway," says Chuck. Mike and Bob continue to observe when suddenly the air from Area 51 comes alive. Guy hears it too. "It feels like something is in the air again. It could be a B-2 bomber refueling at dawn and staying airborne for a couple of hours." Guy can't believe his eyes. The B-2 is not alone, but in good company. "That's a MiG-19. Awesome. It's flying in our direction." Even though the Cold War with the Soviet Union has ended, the struggle continues in Area 51. They are preparing to meet Chuck and Guy in the valley, where they will not be surprised by security. On the map, there is only one verified location left. "If I understood everything correctly, the main gate should be about 15 kilometers from here, at that hill," Mike ponders. As they approach the official entrance, Mike is frightened by what he sees in the mirror. A huge bus with dark windows approaches them, which seems designed for the protection or concealment of passengers. "No way," he thinks, watching as the bus does not slow down. "I think the bus was going at a speed of 45, maybe 145. Preparing to exit, Mike Johnson spends weeks on post, his goal being a worker from Area 51 who will tell for the first time about life at the base. "As a researcher, I was struck by how they managed to maintain complete secrecy for so long," he shares his thoughts. Step 1. How many people work there? How do they get onto this base? Area 51 is located 225 kilometers north of Las Vegas. Persistent rumors circulate about a secret airline, Janet Air, which transports workers to the base's territory. The name, according to legend, stands for just another non-existent terminal. But whatever it is called, there is now no doubt that it exists somewhere here. McCarran International Airport and the Janet Terminal are located in the western part, near the Las Vegas runway. The only indication of the location is a sign that reads, "Caution, do not enter." This is a security facility, but what kind of facility it is remains unknown. This is what they call hiding in plain sight, notes Mike. During surveillance, the first thing that stands out is the absence of any markings on the aircraft. All planes have a number on the tail except for military ones, he says, pointing out that this is a private jet. Experience tells him that these planes belong to EGEG, a major government contractor. One of the planes, Janet, has just landed and is about to take off. They clearly do not leave them here for long, he observes. Every day, hundreds of men and women pass through these gates on their way to work in Area 51. Mike watches as a car arrives and a guard steps out. The driver shows some identification. "He is trying to figure out what I am doing," says Mike, realizing that the guard is keeping a close eye on his car. "I have caught his attention. He knows I am here." Mike is currently on public property, but he should be concerned. It is time to check the security system, but he could jeopardize all the work done, he reflects, aware of the risks associated with his observations. The white security vehicle from the Janet terminal is closely monitoring Mike Johnson. At the same time, the Las Vegas Police Department is also watching him. He jokes that it would be amusing if no one approaches him to ask for identification. The net is tightening both on the ground and in the air, and he hears a helicopter. Mike realizes that the best way to continue his research is to leave as quickly as possible and return when everything calms down. Time is running out, and there is no way through. He is on a hot trail related to Area 51 and understands that he has had to risk his life to keep this place a secret. With each passing moment, he and his colleague Bob are getting closer to their goal. On the horizon, he notices orange markings on the hill. This is where Chuck marked the boundary. He points to the sensors that guard this line. Those who crossed it were arrested, interrogated, and had their cameras, phones, and even clothing confiscated. Mike wonders, could it be that none of the hundreds of people working in Area 51 have ever leaked information about what the government threatens them with? In the course of his investigation, he uncovered the addresses and backgrounds of the people who park their cars at the airport in Las Vegas and fly to the secret base. Now it is time to take the next step and find out everything. Cars without license plates emerge from the base, and this might be his last opportunity. He has been tailing one of them for several days and was able to determine who the owner was, reasonably assuming that he worked as a tester. Mike is determined to bring to light those who might reveal the secrets of the zone from the inside. With his tail, the car merges onto the highway. The start is promising. The pursued target is distancing itself from the guards, giving him more chances for a conversation. He cannot imagine how contractors or the government pressure these people, creating a sense that they have given up their lives. It is astonishing how all of this has remained a secret. However, traffic jams slow down the chase, and for a moment, Mike loses his target. The car is 50 meters away from him, but soon he spots the black car again. He weaves, trying to stay close enough while not giving himself away. The pursuit shifts from the highway to the city streets, and it seems it will end in a quiet suburb. These people are ordinary middle class, the upper echelon. They live next door, are parents of your children's best friends, yet they have top secret jobs. Mike decides to knock on the door. Are the answers to his questions hidden behind this door? Will it be a worthy reward for his efforts? He introduces himself. "My name is Mike Johnson. I am a researcher. I have no problems, but your car was spotted at Janet Terminal, and I hope we can talk about Area 51. But in response, he only receives no comment and a closed door. His reaction shows that he indeed works there, but has no intention of talking about it. The government's policy of complete secrecy seems an insurmountable obstacle, but Mike is more patient than ever and determined to find someone willing to talk. He is going to dig up something and find disgruntled employees willing to speak out or admit that they work at the base. Returning to Las Vegas, Mike hopes to learn more about the workers of the zone. The information he has leads him to a hotel where, if the information is correct, a former employee of Area 51 should be waiting for him. I worked at Area 51 for about 14 years, in 1980 and the early 90s, says the man, who is willing to talk. His name will not be disclosed, and his face and voice are altered. He recounts how many risked their lives to keep this place a secret. Mike has spent hours watching arrivals at Janet from Area 51, and now he has met someone who flew there 5 days a week. Arrivals at Area 51 begin with a thorough check. Travelers park, head to the terminal, and show their luggage to ensure that there are no tape recorders or cameras in it. Mr. X, the anonymous source, confirms the accuracy of the three-dimensional model created by Chuck Clark, a specialist on Area 51. He claims that this model is absolutely correct. According to him, life and work on the base are permeated with fear, and security measures for the staff are much stricter than they may seem at first glance. If you call home, you have to be careful when talking to your wife and kids about where you are, when you might come back, and how, he shares. Secrecy, he says, is necessary for the testing of aircraft being developed in the United States. However, in Mr. X's opinion, Area 51 is different from other Air Force bases. This is not your ordinary Air Force. We are above the regular Air Force, he emphasizes. He also points out that the owners of Area 51 constantly risk the lives of their employees. This is absolute power. This is absolute corruption, he says, adding that the atmosphere on the base resembles an apocalypse. Nothing holds them back. They have their own mission. Mr. X talks about how quickly those who challenge the system are dealt with. One of the employees expressed doubts about the effects of toxic chemicals, and he was told that the project needed to be completed as quickly as possible. When he protested, he was fired and removed from the base. I know very well how dangerous it is to talk, he says, but if the truth does not come out, due to corruption, the military activity of the base will come to an end. This issue needs to be discussed in Congress, he adds. Meanwhile, Chuck and Guy, tired after a long descent, were not sure they had evaded security until they reached the meeting place. At this time, private security guards hired to protect Area 51 are watching Mike and Bob from an elevation. They are our target, says one of them. Someone is watching us right now, listening to us right now. There is clear activity on the security channel. All right, I think we've seen everything we wanted, and I have no desire to go further, he says, realizing that the security is already on high alert. It's time to leave and meet with Guy and Chuck. So guys, are you as tired as we are? He asks, and his companions confirm. The team's research has proven that Area 51 is fully operational, and the radio has activated, preparing for action. We had a great view of the base, incredible for such a distance. If Mr. X's words are true, then people like Chuck Clark and his team can hope for the reform of the military base, where absolute secrecy blurs the line between fact and fiction. We are the last remaining superpower, he says. Secrecy in Area 51 itself have been expanding in recent years, and the question arises why? Why shroud the area in such secrecy? For national security purposes, or is it simply a cover for darker dealings? Either way, the government will not speak. The journey into the desert leads to the territory of Area 51, where passage is forbidden. If anyone is seeking answers, Chuck and his team are ready to provide them. The truth is here,